this compassion fatigue. I know is one of the keywords for the focus that you've got on the table, and how. Let's do a little bridging here. How what we've just been talking about, how that plays into the compassion fatigue, and how that can be extracted out, and we can get on the right track.
Compassion fatigue. So which part? The part that people are suffering it, or how they recognize it? I mean, you get so exhausted when you're taking care of others. But the reason you're exhausted is because you didn't take care of yourself first. Mm-hmm. Because if you're not filling your own buckets with that self-care, right? Put your own oxygen mask on first. If you don't, you can't help anyone else, and then you're going to be too tired to help them. I mean, it really is that vicious cycle once again. How do I prevent it? Well, what are you willing to do for yourself? You have value. When are you going to recognize that value? Because your value helps others.
So compassion fatigue, define that a little bit more. You're going in the right direction. So
okay.
Define that a little bit more. Yeah.
Sure. So let's think about what compassion really is. Compassion is like kindness. It's caring for other people. That's compassion. I care for you as the being that you are. If I'm going to go back to nurses themselves, because that's where we started this, when I'm caring for someone, I have no judgment about you. That's how I'm trained. I'm just supposed to take care of whatever is wrong with you and get you ideally to a place where you can become optimally well. That's my goal when I'm with you. I make my own nursing diagnoses. Now, if I have too many people that I'm inundated taking care of, how can I take care of them? And if I'm doing the same thing day in and day out, and even though it's horrible, I'm getting burnt out because there's no relief in sight. There is compassion fatigue, that not eating, not drinking, not right. That's all compassion fatigue. It all goes hand in hand because I can't take care of myself. If I can't take care of you, if I can't take care of me, I certainly can't take care of you. And even though I want to, I can't. I don't even know that there's a problem with you anymore because I'm so full of my own suffering. That's like compassion.
Just as a healthcare practitioner, when I got trained in my discipline, I had just recovered from breast cancer, and there was something about what you're talking about, that compassion, that willingness to help, that I got so present to as I went through my training, which wasn't in the quote medical practice like you are. Mine was more in the alternative. But I got very aware that had to start with me. And I made a promise to myself that I have to get a massage every week, or don't, because there were people in my discipline that would go for 8 weeks before they got any. And I'm like, there's no way in hell that you could do that because you're not taking care of yourself. And so for me, every morning I wake up, I check in with myself, like you were talking, you got up at 4:30, kudos to you for doing that. But I would check in with myself to make sure that my mind, body, and spirit were in alignment, where I did my meditation, where I did my yoga, where I drank my green juice, where, because I knew that if I didn't take care of myself, what would I do taking care of anybody else?
And thank goodness they taught you that, and they might do it differently now. I didn't go to nursing school in the dark ages because nursing was my second career, but I graduated in 97. I got news for you. That wasn't part of the program.
Well, and I didn't go to nursing school either, so that wasn't part of my program.
But the point is, but you recognized it, but nurses aren't trained like that. Like, it's funny. But all this stuff that I've come up with the active listening and the senses, it wasn't from being a nurse that I figured this out. It was from doing all the personal development and self-care while I've been healing the last few months that I've come up with all of this. Right. That people aren't recognizing that what self-care really starts with truly, is self, and not after you're depleted, but so that you won't become depleted. People want to make it a panacea after the fact. Well, there's always a time to start, but you want to get there ideally before you're at the bottom.
No kidding. I mean, I know that if I don't do that prep every day that I work on somebody, I'm not serving them. So why do it? That's how I look at it. And I know,
And you're
Kimberly,
100%.
you have your own thing where you get going and you know when your body's out of balance and you work to get it back in, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's about also saying no. But here's another point I want to bring up, and it's about not feeling valued. And when you're in an environment where you constantly don't maybe feel listened to or valued, and nurses are sometimes spoken down to, or even worse, I mean, there's ego above them, around them. So when you don't feel valued, you don't create boundaries, then your fear of your job. So that has to be changed too. And then it has to start with the management of the nurses. You can't be all ego driven, and that's why I chose to get out of corporate America.
And Charlotte, you really that's where you faced bam into the wall when you were in New York City. They didn't care what you thought, right?
They did not. No, well, it wasn't that they didn't care. Here's the bottom line. They knew there was always someone else coming to take my place for that kind of money, right? So it was great. I will tell you one thing about the company. They were a great company. They said, listen, if you realize this is just too much, just tell us you're done, and you can always get rehired. And they still send me. Like, if I wanted to go back, I could go back with the company. But no, I've already been damaged once. Thanks. I don't need to do it twice. I also know I'm no longer somebody that can ever be employed again. I'm completely unadaptable as a nurse now. I'm so outspoken that you can't tell me not to do something. Because I'm just going to do what I know is best. I think for my own. I critically think I'm a dangerous nurse. I'm not a sheep. So I'm not employable by most.
So that's where it comes down to. You're willing to stand up for your value, but everybody should be able to have a value. So, but that has to also be with the management of the nurses. You know, I don't know how the doctors are ever going to be tied into that, but if you're only being told what to do by doctors and residents, then you feel like you have no value, and then you don't take value. You just keep working and working and working, you know?
Right. So, yeah, and even if it's not in those facilities, like, you know, even where I used to work, I can tell you that I had a lot to say in a lot of things, but I got news for you. Then some of the doctors didn't want to do their jobs, even though I worked labor and delivery, right? But it is what it is. If you go up the chain of command, then you go up the chain of command, so you don't make friends, but you do what you have to. I mean, you would hope you don't, because as healthcare people.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask you, because I know we're getting closer on time. Yeah. I know you've got and I want you to talk a little bit about the 1 hour course that you have available and how you're making that available, and then the 4 hours. So can you jump into that a little bit?
Gladly, thank you. I create a 1 hour course for nurses. It includes a 10-minute cognitive exercise, which helps reset the parasympathetic nervous system to put you in a rest and relaxation state. Nursing programs and hospitals can reach out to me on my website, which is www.medicalwarriors.com. I'm sorry, www.medicalwarriors2020.com. And they can also reach me at Your Service Education on Facebook. Those are the two best ways to get a hold of me. My 4 hour course is continuing education for nurses, and it's all about trauma and stress disorders. And that's the real pandemic in healthcare, or the nurses that are dealing with this pandemic and how they can heal by alternative therapies in addition to medical therapies as well.
And is that available on your website as well, Charlotte?
There's minimal information on my website, but it's enough information that they can send me an email and I can get back to them, and then we can have a conversation.
I think that's really great. That's really great, because I know that that nurses that who need that, number one, but they need it not just, it doesn't affect just them personally, but it affects their families and their friends if they take that time to take care of themselves, right?
And their patients. I mean, that's what people don't realize is it should be self first, your colleagues second, and your patients third. Mm-hmm. Because the patients will get the best of you to care for, like you said. What could I have given my massage clients if I didn't take care of myself first? Me as a nurse, what can I take care of? You know, how do I really care for my patients when I'm not taking care of me first? You're getting what's left. And right now, for a lot of them, it's not much. So long-term, short-term, it's a lot to worry about. It really is. And I just want everyone to be well. I am that optimist. What can I tell you? I wish that everyone would reach optimal wellness. And I
love your passion. I love, your offering, and I want people to really reach out to you. And I want to see especially the 1 hour course that'll lead into the 4 hour course for people to do that. So kudos to you. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I invite our listeners to, if you didn't hear the first part, go back and hear the first part. It's so wonderful to have people like you, Charlotte, that are doing this work, and that this can happen, that other nurses awaken and get behind you and help as well. That'd be so awesome.
Well, I pray that for that all of us. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning into our show on societybitesradio.com. Don't worry if you've missed a show. You can find them all on our website at SarasotaHolisticChamberofCommerce.com.